Vital Signs. This is the Mission and Goals podcast. Radio check, over. Hang in there, buddy. We've got you. You're not alone.
Welcome to the Mission and Goals podcast, a dedicated space where conversations about veteran mental health are brought to the forefront. Join me, a veteran, as I embark on a deeply personal journey to uncover the hidden battles that continue long after the uniform is hung up. In this special 1.5 hour episode, we delve into the complex and often overlooked topic of veteran mental health and transitioning to civilian life. Our distinguished guest, Dane Christensen, founder and CEO from Survive to Thrive Nation, shares his insights, experiences, and the challenges faced by veterans upon their return to civilian life. Together we discuss the pivotal role mental health plays in the reintegration journey and the steps we can all take to support our heroes. Dane's Survive to Thrive Nation offers veterans knowledge to help them understand why and what they are going through, and provides the tools to build their way back up and prepare them for future challenges. If you've ever wanted to understand more about the mental health challenges faced by our veterans and how we can offer support, this episode is a must listen. Join us as we explore, learn, and advocate for a cause that truly matters.
Hi Dane.
How you going, mate?
Yeah, not too bad. Hey, I just wanted to say, loving your energy. Really good. It's already uplifting me. And just want to say that with the Survive to Thrive Nation, the reason I got you on is I did the course a couple of months ago, recommended to me by a friend, and I took a fuck ton out of it.
Awesome, mate.
I was already on my journey of healing, trying to figure out why I'm going through my shit, and then some of the stuff you taught on your online course hit home hard. Specifically the stresses and just relieving of the stress, and the indoctrination, brainwashing, whatever you want to call it, which I can't wait for the listeners to hear, and I highly recommend go do the course, but I can't wait to delve into your brain, figure out why you got into this, how you started, and the goals and mission for Survive to Thrive Nation. So Dane, let's tell a little bit about you and your backstory.
Yeah, okay. Dane Christensen, founder and CEO of Survive to Thrive Nation. I served in 2 combat tours, East Timor and Iraq, former infantry, 5-7 Royal Australian Regiment. Look, I mean, we'll go deeper into that as the podcast goes along, I'm sure, but I guess it's the why. So,
Yep.
You know, I came home looking for answers,
Yep.
and I reached out for clinical assistance, and it took 2 years for anyone to even look at me to give me any help. And by that stage, I was completely debilitated with post-traumatic stress. It took me, about 2 years to be able to comfortably get past my mailbox. I couldn't walk through shopping centres, and I was just very overwhelmed with panic and anxiety. I was never a victim of it. I was always victorious. I went past that mailbox anyways, but just trying to get past it every single day was a huge effort, and it weighed extremely heavily on me, and I just knew that I just couldn't live this way. And so finally, a couple of years later, the Department of Veteran Affairs have said, okay, now we can give you some help. And so I went to do a PTSD program, and it was 16 weeks away, and it was in a hospital. And at the time, I was the youngest veteran in there. And I asked a question that was very specific to the needs of how I was looking out for threats, the things that I was worrying about. How did things unfold to the point where I had anxiety that was environmental and it actually had a reason behind it, to all of a sudden there is no reason for this panic? Why am I anchoring on to issues that just didn't occur before? Mm-hmm. Why am I absolutely paranoid about the way that people are thinking about me, what they're saying about me? How did this happen?
Yeah. How did it happen?
Right. And so it was an injury that didn't have early intervention. And just like any physical injury, what happens?
It's worse and worse and worse.
Starts to deteriorate.
Yeah.
And so I had deteriorated. And when that occurs, when you have a system that doesn't give you early intervention, fast access, is not relatable to the situations that you're going through, so therefore you're exacerbating stress because you're not unlocking answers. Mm-hmm. I mean, just before, I was on my laptop and I was trying to find a font. And as I was trying to find this font that we use on our website, because I couldn't find the colour palette and the font palette for Survive to Thrive Nation, I started to go through all of the different fonts to try to figure out which one it was. And as I started to realise I wasn't getting the answer I needed, the stress got exacerbated. And I was thinking to myself, man, where is the answer to this? And when you find it, then you finally have the breakthrough. But you don't want to have a breakdown trying to find those answers. And so I sat in this PTSD program. I put my hand up to ask a question with a psychologist. And I said, what should I do if I feel this way? And the response was, what do you think you should do? Why was I there?
I got told to sing. I got told when I was going through the same in the mental hospital, they said, sing wherever you are, just start singing. I was like, here I am with anxiety, and you want me to, in a shopping centre, to start singing at the top of my voice. Like,
it's insane.
Yeah.
And so, I had this lunch break this one day, and it was at the Keith Payne unit in Brisbane, and there was a Vietnam veteran that was out the back, and I came out the back. He was in the smoking area. It was a very vivid picture of the future. Here was this guy. He had cigarettes after cigarette. It was just insane. I've never seen anyone roll his like it. He had so much tar in between his fingers that they were literally stuck together. There was a hole in between the fingers where he would put the cigarette. He would roll one cigarette with his left hand, and as one finished, he knocked it out, and then he slid it in the hole, and he would start smoking again. I've never seen anything like it in my life. But that just goes to show, like, someone who needs to distract themselves and fill themselves with something, because there's a huge void and a huge hole, and there's not the answers that they need, and the sacrifices haven't been made for the healing process. But anyway, so I started to have a chat with him, and I said, mate, I got to ask you, like, how long have you been coming here? And he's like, over 30 years. Wait, what? He goes, I've been coming here for over 30 years. You've been coming as an inpatient into hospitals. He goes, yeah, every year I come in as an inpatient. How long have you not worked? Well, way over 30 years. You haven't been working for over 30 years. And every year you're coming into hospitals. Brother, why are you not healed?
Yeah, I know a couple like that.
Why are you not healed? You don't have to work. I don't understand. And so that was the moment I knew that I had to go on a personal development journey, and I had to find answers for myself. And what happened was, on this personal development journey, I started to unlock and discover answers that just were not coached in the clinical realm. And when I found those answers, I knew that there was transformational skills. There was skills from the military that I could use. One in particular was take the initiative and jump back in the hole and start showing them the way out. I was one of the biggest turning points in my life. I was married to a girl called Jackie. She was an American woman, and we were going through Bunnings, and I was renovating this house at the time. And I don't care if you've got PTSD or not. Anyone that renovates a house understands the stressors and the impact that it can have on partners anyways. Add what turned out to be complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And by the way, it makes PTSD look like a walk in the park. Complex PTSD is a C in front of it, but we're talking about compound traumas throughout your life that haven't been healed. And you have avoided those healing processes just by moving forward and staying strong and moving forward. And eventually, all of them come together and they bring you down to your knees. And so I was dealing with complex post-traumatic stress. We're walking through Bunnings, and someone had told me in the veteran community a story about how the day that they were going to commit suicide was the most comfortable and happiest day of their life. They had finally reached this state of calm. They kind of knew that it was over. And they felt this just immense amount of peace. And he started driving his vehicle. He was lived out in the bush and started driving out to the mountains. He was going through the wavy roads and whatnot. And it was just this really peaceful moment. And as he was, about to take his life and started to set up the vehicle to gas himself, a phone call came through, and it was the life-changing phone call that would change, the trajectory of his life. He put himself in hospital and he changed the game.
It's very similar to, even on my mags, my intro video, I come very vulnerable about my suicide attempts and stuff, and mine was in a car, ready to drive, like looking at the tree, ready to drive 100k an hour into it, when a friend called me randomly out of the blue and saved my life. And so it just hit home and just...
Yeah, brother.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, don't be sorry, brother. God's good, bro. Trust me. He comes. He's throwing out. He's throwing out ropes left, right, and centre, going, not the one for your neck. This is one to pull you out of it.
Yeah.
And those things happen all the time, mate. Spiritual interventions. It's incredible. And so here was this moment of peace that came over me, and I have had a strong will within me ever since I was born. It was just, I've always had an insatiable will inside me, and I felt that peace, and I knew that was it. It was time. And so I ran out of Bunnings. I jumped into the car. I hadn't cried in like 10 years. And my ex-wife came in and she said, what's wrong? And I just broke down. And she said, you need to tell me what's wrong. And I said to her, I'm embarrassed to tell you this, but I don't know if I'm ever going to heal from this. And so I don't see any reason to live. And to my surprise, conservative woman, she literally looked at me and she screamed and said, Dane, that medication, it doesn't work. And the answers you're looking for, they're not there. So I don't know what you have to do or where you have to go, but you need to find these answers for yourself. Mm-hmm. And she was screaming at me when that happened. And then we both started crying together. Like it was, okay, I've got a purpose now. It's to find these answers. I came home and I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't realise I was going on a personal development journey. I didn't even know what that was. There was no names in the veteran community for lived experience coaching at that time. I can assure you, I pioneered it all. What's going on and you see in the community now, Survive to Thrive Nation was the world's first online evidence-based mental health and transitioning success program. We were the first to put a fundamental framework in for peer support and mentors across Australia within our framework. We were the first to have this program with the online community. We were bridging and mitigating psychosocial hazard gaps within the veteran space. But we, at the time, I was intuitively figuring things out. It was 10 years ago. And so I put on, I wrote in inspiration into Google, and somehow a speaker, Jim Rohn, came up. He was actually Jim Rohn?
All I listen to these days is motivational, positive, uplifting, inspirational stuff. I try to get negativity out of my social media, out of my life. Yeah, well, did I know Jim Rohn?
Jim Rohn, he was the mentor for Tony Robbins, mate. So phenomenal speaker, very, very good at keeping things down to simplicity, real kind of funny nature to him. So he was able to talk about these deep, dark subjects with such humour to make you feel uplifted about what was going on in your life. That's such a beautiful, relieving feeling. I mean, have you ever been sad as a kid and then you've got that uncle or a friend or someone that talks to you and then they make you laugh and then all of a sudden you break out of this mindset and you realise everything's going to be okay? And he just had that kind of natural voice about him. And that was it. I started to really to delve into these answers. And then at some point I came across Nick Fothergill's You're Not in the Forces Now. Have you ever seen that? No. And so what I coach in terms of Module 4.1, which is it's about the psychology of military service and how it impacts behaviour. It is a advanced variation to that. And it's a broken down variation to what he put out there. I feel as though that he really broke down what the problem was, but there wasn't the solution based around it. And so I feel as though that there was missing pieces here. And I just want to say I'm so thankful. I don't know where Nick is, or I believe he was in Victoria when he used to coach this program, but that was the stepping stone for great success and what would go out to do really good things in the veteran community. And he started to, coach on the indoctrination of military service and how it impacts the way that we think, feel, and behave, which is really the concept of it. And I started to realise that, we were trained for war. We just weren't trained to come home. And I just knew that I was going to create the program that did exactly that. And that's what we eventually did, mate. And so...
how did it start?
So it started actually...
With the idea?
Yeah, so the idea actually started with me watching these, these YouTube clips on motivational speakers and personal development coaches. And I started to draw a parallel to my own experience. And I would look at the way that I thought from the military. And if I just transitioned that, I could excel in my learning, and I realised that veterans would excel in their learning because it's a familiarisation of terminologies, and that transitioning doesn't mean that this part of your life didn't happen. In fact, it's actually really dangerous to separate yourself from a part of who you are.
I did that when I left.
Yeah.
Like, every bit of the army equipment, photo, everything, got rid of.
Exactly.
I was like, I'm done.
Yeah. And the thought of it, right, like when you go back to look at it, it creates a great deal of anxiety.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm just going to let you know this now. If you can't feel, you can't heal.
Yeah. So, like that.
Yeah. And so you've got to make peace with your past. And the best way to make peace with your past, brother, is to forgive it. To forgive every moment, every situation that happened, every person that was involved in it, everyone that crossed you at the time when you needed them, right? And you have to dig really deep and you have to forgive, because otherwise you just will not break the chains. Well, I just had a mate yesterday that I served with, and he was like, bro, I went to do the forgiveness thing with my mum, and he said, and he goes, mate, the pain of it as I went down to forgive. And I said, because the chain is so tight, brother. You haven't broke the chain. And it's and how do you do that sometimes? Sometimes the chain just doesn't snap. Sometimes you just got to chip away until finally it pulls itself out of the concrete. It pulls itself out of the wall. I mean, I remember when I was forgiving my father, I'd be driving down the street and I'd start to paint these scenarios in my mind. We've all done it. We all start pictures, what I should have said, what I could have done, what you did, how I should have dealt with that at the time, how I'm going to deal with you now. You're not going to do this to me anymore. What a place to put yourself into. And that would happen to me all the time for years. And everyone says that, that's your trigger. Well, I'm just going to tell you, yeah, it's a trigger, but it doesn't need to be. Like you can just honestly let go of that weapon. And I would literally, mate, I would pull the car over. Right there and then, I'm going to say, I'm going to forgive you, not for what you did. You have to live with you. You have to live with that pattern in your life. You have to live with what come out of that. I'm forgiving you because I'm breaking the chains for me. I'm forgiving you because I need freedom.
Yeah, when you say you forgive, this is what I'm and especially with my dad, I have a lot of unpacked trauma that is probably the last of my trauma that I haven't unpacked yet. I'm waiting on it because it's very confronting. Are you forgiving with... Are you just saying, I forgive you? Are you feeling this deep down? Like, this is for the listeners. Like, just saying, I forgive you.
Yes.
Like, I say affirmations every day. When I started, I didn't feel them.
It's not going to work that way.
But now, that I'm just gaining self-confidence and all these little things, when I look at them, I'm myself in the mirror and say my affirmations.
It's a visualization exercise.
Yeah,
it's a visualization exercise.
Same for forgiving?
Yeah, so exercise. So forgiveness is a visualization exercise. So you close your eyes. And you take yourself back to a place of love. Because remember, projection is a reflection. So we don't see the world for how it is. We see the world for how we are.
Yeah, mirrors.
Yeah. And so when you're looking at someone, I know that my heart is predominantly filled with love now and compassion and forgiveness. In fact, I'm in a perpetual state of forgiveness all the time. I come across very difficult people. I work in hard business and I'm not working at a small level. I'm talking federal government level. I'm talking, major corporate organizations and companies. And you deal with you deal with killers, bro. Like you're dealing with big dogs, and they're out there for them, and I'm out there for the veterans. I'm out there for these people, and so you got to if you make yourself the center of the world, if you feel as though that your ego is involved in everything, you just won't last. And to be honest with you, mate, I wish everyone understood the power of forgiveness, because we would have had a lot less suicides. You got to forgive the military. You got to forgive the system. You got to forgive the people that are involved in it. You hold on to that, brother, and they're getting free rent. They're getting free rent from you for the rest of your life. Yep. And so how do you forgive? Well, you pull your car over for starters in that situation. And what you do is you take yourself back to a place where you felt comfort and love. And I can tell you this right now, there will always be an experience for someone. I mean, Craig, who works for me, he was in 11 foster homes between 10 and 14 years old. He's experienced abandonment in his entire life. I've experienced abandonment, and so for me to find these moments where love was and comfort, I almost have to take myself back to moments. It wasn't a consistent thing in my life. So I would take myself back to these moments. And when I finally got there, I would visualize it below my belly button, and I'd visualize it just coming up, and I would then visualize who I was angry at, right? And then I would start to feel that towards them. I'm now renewing my system with love, right? It's being renewed with love. If you just say, I forgive you, that's at the conscious level. It's not at the subconscious level. And we see everything, right? Like, when you went to module 3 and I was telling you guys about, subconscious is our experiences in life, and then we see through that lens into what's consciously in front of us. And so if you haven't forgiven from that, what you're going to see is a threat. You're going to see that people abandon you. You're going to see that people are wronging you. Now, when you heal, you know that that's an option, but you're dealing with it from a place of confidence and peace. If you deal with it from fear, fear begets fear. I'm going to install fear in you with my energy. So therefore, I'm actually going to attract the situation to happen. And so, people go, misery loves company. Bro, of course it does. You're miserable. You're creating misery all around you. And the only ones that are hanging out with you is the ones that are feeling comfortable in it. Mm-hmm. So it's a visualization exercise. You got to get yourself back to a place of love. You got to project it towards these people. Your brain, right? This is how the enemy within works, right? So the soul whispers, but the mind screams. The mind's saying, "Why should I? Why I don't have to do that? This person did that. This person never said sorry to me. Well, you should, because you're going to be, that person's coming with you for the rest of your life. You can't look at a military photo anymore. You can't look at a friend. You can't see this, because you ain't at peace with anything. So what are we going to do from that? Then we're going to do it again. We're going to add that to the trauma. Then we're going to add the next person that wrongs you to the trauma. Bro, you got to do it anyways. Like, trauma is not our fault, but it is 100% our responsibility. Yeah. And I ask you this, generational trauma. Do you want your kids, in the future, do you want children of the future, do you want the Australian children of the future to be walking around in a place of perpetual forgiveness? Or do you want them to go, let's go with the eye for an eye and leave the whole world blind?
Yeah. It's, yeah. I understand what you're saying, and it's very true. It's very true, because even with a lot of people don't believe in generational trauma or ancestral healing.
Of course it is.
I very much do. I did a breathing full moon workshop for ancestral healing on the Strand at Palaranda a few months ago. But I see it in my daughter. I have a 14-year-old daughter. She's 15 in December. I see it in my daughter from my trauma. I can see now purely in her and that generational trauma. And so to heal that would be amazing. That's why a big part of the reason I'm going on my healing journey is for my daughter doesn't have to carry the shit, because it's fucking debilitating and it's fucking horrible, and I don't want her to deal with that at all. Yeah. Well, we do some crazy practices around here where it's kind of like, what are we grateful for today? This. Who are we forgiving today?
you know,
So you don't need...
imagine you had a team where you're like, you know, my boss is a beast. He knows his stuff, but yet he still has the humility to forgive, even though that if he wanted to pull the trigger and he wanted to get us involved in this fight, he could. But why bog myself down with problems when I can bog myself down with great success?
Yeah, and reward.
And freedom.
Yeah.
You know, how bothersome is it to have someone who's bothered as a person, who projects lies, who's a scam artist, who has the center of the world is about them, that doesn't have a sense of bringing value to others' lives unless they get it in return, isn't giving freely, is not a generous human being. I mean, what's going on inside them is not what I want going on inside me. Yeah. And I'm inviting it in if I don't forgive and move on. I'm inviting it in. So I'm walking in freedom. What a frustrating place for the person that has tried to bring you down or has wronged you or has done this. Because they're going to continue to do that. The patterns don't change. That's what's going on in their brain, their soul, their system, all of that kind of stuff. But mine is one of freedom, you know. And so who's the strongest player?
Sorry, I just have to ask a question. How do... Because I've noticed in the veteran community, veterans are fucking angry. Like, so angry. How do you not convert, but these angry, me and self included, I've got some anger issues that I work on daily. How do you tell these veterans, or any veteran, or any person really, how do they enact from being angry, like at the world and want to watch the world destroy, to forgiving? I know it's a conscious choice, but how do we get veterans to do that?
Yeah, look, I mean, consciously, we know that anger is wrong.
Yep.
And then anger itself, right, comes in a state of changing. It comes from a state of setting an intention first, and then it's an obedient, disciplined walk until you reach a state of deliverance and freedom. So, but you want to firstly unlock why. And you've just done the Survive to Thrive program, module 4.1. Indoctrination to military service, how it impacts the way we think, feel and behave. You break it down to me. What did you get out of that?
What I got out of it, or the two main things I got out of it, was the relief of stress. So obviously when we get out of defence, we don't have that stress relief anymore. I don't work out anymore. Like, you know, I've had fucking 8 surgeries and I've used that as an excuse not to work out. I'm getting into calisthenics now. But like, I don't have an outlet for stress, and I build it up till I lose my anger. And so now I acknowledge, like, I know when I'm angry. What I've done since doing the course is now, instead of being angry for a week, I'm now angry for 10 minutes because I've acknowledged it. I notice it and I go, okay, it's not serving me anymore. I've got to put that aside, because 95% of our, like, we can't control 95%. Like, how do I word this? 95% of what we're angry or emotional about, we can't control. And there's 3 things we can control, which is our emotions, actions, and thoughts. And so that's what I focus on now to get for that side of things. You can control and you can renew. Yeah. You can renew. Absolutely. You got to renew, brother. It's if you're making a transformation, let's have a look at Christianity, right? When someone repents, they don't turn away, they turn to. So I'm going to turn away from alcohol, drugs, sex before marriage, right? I'm going to turn away. But if I don't turn to something, I do a full 360. Where am I going to go? I'm going to relapse back into the same thing. So you have to turn to. When we turn to, we renew. That's how transformation happens, right? And so it's not just education. Remember, you need a community, right? It takes a village to raise a child. Mate, we're still got inner children inside of us. It takes a village for us too. Yep. So that's why, you know, you want to be able to use community as much as you can. So you're turning away from certain people, certain behavior, certain environments, and you're turning to something new to, you know, restore it. Now, if I've got mentors, remember that we are made up of the 5 people that we hang around with the most. And they are influencing me to deal with things with forgiveness, with love, with compassion, to give freely, you know. Who do you think I'm going to become? I'm inspired by this. It's around me all the time. Who do I want to become? But if you don't
have that around you, you're just going to turn back around in a circle because that's the way that you just know how to go. Despite the pain, it's direction. You know, we all need direction. So it's you got to renew the mind.
The second thing I learned was the indoctrination of, like, I call it brainwashing, indoctrination. I didn't realise, like, you always hear about military people being brainwashed and indoctrinated. I didn't realise the extent of it. So I knew that drill and all that was instinctive and that's to get you on the battlefield. Like, I knew all that side of things. But what you teach on that course, the level of indoctrination, that it was fucking eye-opening. It was so eye-opening that I've told it to my daughter. I was like, this is the reason why I act this way. I'm working on it. But at least now we both know why. It's not just me as a person. Like, it is me, but it's brainwashing, indoctrination over 15 years that I was in the army, and it's going to take time for me to get out of it. So it's huge what you've taught. Like, I took so much out of that course, that especially that indoctrination. People don't realise. Veterans don't realise this. The world doesn't realise how much we are indoctrinated. They think it's just a job. Yeah.
Well, the moment you say to someone, do not question an order, you take away critical thinking of a human being. So when you even get into Christianity, the way that cults work is we're not supposed to have blind faith. There's answers within a Bible. There's answers within people around you. But if you go into blind faith, that is just believe me, just do this, just do that, and you're not, you know, creating your own education or having critical thinking about what you're doing. Next thing you know, you're in Jonestown with Jim Jones drinking the Kool-Aid, you know. So it's you got to have a level of critical thinking. Now, they have a purpose in terms of that. Things have to move really quickly within the military. There are things about it that could change and save our lives. They just don't want to give you the reason behind it, right? Which is really silly. I mean, if we all knew that the whole reason we need to be indoctrinated is it comes down to when we're on a battlefield and a shot rings out and you question an order, mate, why should I run down and crawl, observe, aim, fire? And you're not working automatically, instinctively, and without thought in terms of, you know, how we roll. You're not going to be a very well-oiled operator. You know, you're going to be quite a messy person out on the battlefield, you know, and you probably get shot and killed pretty quickly. You know, we don't want a military that is questioning everything. But they have to have confidence in how we fight. Like, I don't actually take away the way that the military works. What I'm saying is that you guys are being trained for war. You're not being trained to come home. And my program does exactly that. So whilst you're in, this really works and it makes you a very well-oiled operator. But as you're coming out, if you don't know the information, you're not going to be able to articulate what's going on with you, and therefore it's going to rot within you and it's going to break you down. So for your listeners, I'll give you an understanding of how this works. So 46.8% of defence members experience a mental health concern within the first 12 months of discharge. That is wild. If you had a jelly bean jar and you said to me, Dane, half of these will make you unwell, you're about to step out, you want a jelly bean? I'd go, mate, I'm not going anywhere. Right? Why, when we step out within that first 12 months, does 46.8% of defence members experience mental health? And 46% within 5 years are actually diagnosed with a condition. Half. And the military right now, the Australian Defence Force, are out there saying that the mental health issues are no different from the general public. How does that even make sense? It doesn't make any sense. If you have a look at some of these, you know, contradicting and conflicting clinical data, they seem very agenda-based to me, because I know that 46.8% is actually quite conservative, right? You cannot train someone to be indoctrinated for war, where things such as controlled aggression, which turns into aggression, to always be switched on, to never get complacent, which turns into performance anxiety unhealed turns into anxiety and general anxiety disorders. You can't teach people, you know, all of these genetically conditioning emotional responses that get right down to the deep DNA level in us, and just expect them to come out and not break down when they come out. Like what they're saying, right, and this is true, a loss of purpose is the reason why we exacerbate stress when we come out. Losing our identity. Who am I without that uniform? Of course, that's going to have a massive stressor on you. Who am I? I mean, imagine the impact of that. Knowing who you are, what you stand for, what your principles and values are. It's all within the military. A loss of community, people of understanding, coming outside of your tribe and everything that everyone knows, like we know each other, you and I, as soon as we sit down, I know your background, you know mine, bro. We're in the same family. You know what I mean? And the next is the adaptation stress. And the adaptation stress is the one where they use it in such a generalized, vague term. But that is the reason. It's the adaptation stress. It's the fourth stressor that is the one that's breaking us. So if you're telling people who, let's just break it down right now. All right, I was going to skip a few steps there. You leave when you leave home, everything that you've ever known, you're about to go into a military environment. Now, it takes 4 to 6 weeks to create a psychological to mechanical habit. That means something begins to happen for you, automatic, instinctive, and without thought. Now, I went over to the United States. I was living in Indiana. My ex-wife was from Indiana. And I was speaking to her father-in-law. And he was telling me about golf camps, basketball camps, all the different camps that they do in America. And they take these kids away from their friends, their family, everything they ever known, and they take them out and they go through fundamental drill movements over and over and over and over again until it happens automatic, instinctive, and without thought, right? They're away from everything they know, everything they knew before, and it's just over and over and over again. So we go into this environment. Everything that we knew about ourselves is not just taken away. We're actually told that who you were before is lower than who you are now. You were a civilian before, or a civvy scum, as we referred to it when I was in. Yeah. So now all of a sudden you're in an environment and you're a recruit, and they're telling you you're the lowest piece of junk in here. But outside of here, you're like, well, what happens if I leave? I'm going back to something lower than that, and I'm a recruit. So that's the first part of the psyche. Now, when they come up to address you in the bus, are they coming up to you passively? Hey, bro, did you bring your golf clubs?
Maybe these days.
Yeah. But did you bring your golf clubs from the recruitment video? No, they don't. They do it aggressively because aggression is the thing that we get told gets the fastest and best results with aggression. And so we get off the bus and we don't even know how to march. But yet they're screaming at us as we're marching down to the Q store. So everything that you ever knew about your civilian clothes is now being taken away from you and stripped. And so you put everything on. And from a very detailed state, they're going to show you how to tie up your laces. Left lace over the right. Now we're learning, again, the basics of children's stuff. Yep. Left lace over the right. And you do everything to a very well detailed state. Now, if they tell you to do something and you don't, and you question it, what do they say to you? Don't question an order, right? Sure. So your critical thinking has now been taken away. You just got to do. You got to work it out the way that they do it. Monkey see, monkey do. Take away critical thinking. This is how we do it. Mm-hmm. So, okay, we got that. Now we're going to have to teach you how to walk, right? We're going to reteach you how to walk. You're going to learn how to march now, right? And the first drill movement is from standard ease to attention. Okay, we've got that. We're going to go over that over and over again. It becomes automatic, instinctive, without thought. Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. We're not questioning order. Now we're working automatically, instinctively, without thought. Cool. Don't get much sleep. You're getting screamed at down hallways. This is what you're now learning. This is what you're being renewed with, and you're not questioning anything. So now screaming is normal. Marching this way is the way to go. In fact, when you leave the ADF, you'll see recruits who actually have to break themselves out of step because they've created these habits. Otherwise, they're marching down the street, right? And so now it's begun. The conditioning has begun, and so. Then we have to get you to be able to, kill someone, because at the end of the day, that's what you're here for. It doesn't matter if you're Air Force, Navy, Army, infantry or non-combat. We need a basic level to be able to protect this country. So we're going to have to teach you how to kill, because that's the outcome. Everything has an outcome. And so how do you get that? Well, you can't be thinking too much into it. You just got to be able to do it and respond. So now we're going to fill you up with history, the history of the ADF. We're going to fill you up with everything. We're going to build this value, this new values inside you. And so, you know, all of the values start to become instilled into you. And you start to feel extremely proud. You're bigger than who you ever used to be before. Civilians are so low to you. They're nothing to you. You start to create these new friendships. You're in your new tribe. We've got a purpose now that's bigger and above ourselves, right? And so now everything's looking epic. I'm feeling like this confidence. When the first day, you were just dog shit.
10 foot tall and bulletproof.
10 foot tall, and now you're 10 foot tall and bulletproof. And so now we're going to go through some weapon drills. Lower down, cock, lock, look. Weapon fires, weapon stops, lower down, cock, lock, look. And we do that over and over again until it becomes what?
Instinctive.
Exactly. Automatic, instinctive, without thought. So, so we go through these drill movements, and finally we start going out field. We're starting to really bond now. Now they're starting to, you know, the section commanders are a little bit more autonomous with you, and you're really feeling a part of something. Confidence is really starting to build. But you know, if you step out of line, there's going to be huge consequences. You know, if you question an order, there's going to be wild consequences against you. So you've fallen into line, and finally you go out field, and all of a sudden you hear a shot ring out. It's run, down, crawl, observe, aim, fire. Run, down, crawl, observe, aim, fire. And this is such a this conditioning you do over and over again until, you know, you're at this level where, particularly if you're in a combat corps, when people see danger in civilian street, you know, their first response is fight or flight. Flight is probably the first response. But all of you collectively are turning towards that response now. You're turning towards it. Now, you can't turn towards a response passively. You have to do it aggressively. Do you not? Yeah. So what have we now instilled in the emotional response? Well, when you got off that bus, the first thing that we were told was aggression gets you the best results. We got told to never question an order. So that's another thing that we get told. We got told that, you know, you have to do everything with a sense of urgency, right? And half the time you're feeling pretty disarrayed. You're halfway through, you're in the mess hall and you're eating, and then all of a sudden they're screaming at you to come out. You haven't even finished your meal. So you're working at this incredible sense of urgency in everything that you do. And now we're at the end, and we have to now use anger as a response, right? Now we're using it. And so the shot rings out, and then all of a sudden we turn towards the danger, and it's run, down, crawl, observe, aim, fire. And it becomes what? Automatic, instinctive, without thought. So now we've created patterns within the human system, which is performance anxiety. We're told never to question an order. So now our critical thinking has been taken away, but we've added values to it. So what ends up happening is when you leave civilian street and your values no longer match your actions in the way that you walk. The values that you had within the military, all of these emotional responses no longer work, Joel. So now we go into what we call cognitive dissonance. It's where our values are not aligning with our behavior. So we know we're doing something wrong. We just don't know how to stop it.
Keep going. I'm listening. This is good.
So then all of a sudden, we're coming out, and you know, the performance anxiety now turns into general anxiety disorder. That turns into paranoia. And mate, we're coming out, and 46.8% have fallen on their ass within about 12 months. You take away someone's purpose, you take away someone's identity, you take away someone's community, and now they have to behave when they've just had this drilled into them. Now, like I said, it takes 6 to 12 weeks to form a habit. How long are you in the military? Minimum military career for a full-time service member?
4 years.
4 years. So, right, and it takes 12 months to become institutionalised. Now, all of a sudden, you're institutionalised within this environment. So we're trained for war. We're not trained to come home. Now, what the Australian Defence Force are going to tell you right to the top level of the Joint Transition Authority, what they're going to tell you at the government, is that mental health is a complex case. Every situation is complex. Sure, every individual has individual needs. but you've created a complex case because now you have allowed these people to form severe mental health conditions. When you have severe mental health conditions, right, we're talking deep trauma now. Everyone's going to have individual needs. Therefore, you're going to put a massive impact on the community. And honestly, I mean, it's out of control. It's out of control.
How do they say that it's mental health is an individual problem when half of us within the first 12 months have a mental health problem? You know what I mean? If they're saying that, what did you say before? That the defence says that mental health is an individual's problem?
So what they say to you, right, like when someone has a mental health issue, they call it a complex case. Okay. Right? So now you've got a condition. Yeah, it is a complex case. Yeah. What type of medication am I going to start bombing you up with? How much does that need for you? Yeah. You know, what kind of program is going to be beneficial and suited to you? Well, you've got anger issues, you've got anxiety issues. Well, you're not real good because you've got a different personality type that's not going to work with, meditation. So we're going to have to try and find a surf program maybe for you. Imagine the vocational counsellors. Every individual that comes in, you're trying to find an individual complex need for every single individual. This would all stop if we prevented mental health conditions. We know that prevention is better than a cure. You see, they go, one size doesn't fit all. Oh, that's really funny because when we went to school, aren't we all going through the same education system? Mm-hmm. Does education not prevent issues? If we're able to use lived experience to unlock these issues so people create a higher level of self-awareness of the way they think, feel and behave, and they know that what you've learnt within the military in terms of your emotional responses are not going to work outside that environment, and that we're going to build a fundamental framework around that so that you know how to deal with these issues with your higher level of self-awareness, so we can put you through a healing journey over the next 12 months rather than a breaking down journey, don't you think we're going to see a huge change?
Yep.
Brother, we're at over 7,000 completions of the Survive to Thrive program, 0 reported suicides. Yep. 0.
That's good. That's amazing. Like, that's fucking fantastic and huge.
Yes.
Yeah, that's amazing. Like,
all through lived experience, coaching, you know, like, you can't just go out there and wing it. I mean, I've been in this game 10 years. Yeah. You know, there was a lot of instinctive working around what works, what fits into the puzzle here, what's going to be engaging, what's not, what goals are going to work for everybody, what's not. You know, and there's a reason why I do things generalised, because a lot of people do have a complex case now. Like, your purpose is going to be different from mine. Yep. But what I do tell people is that everyone can turn their pain into a purpose, so it happens for you instead of to you. I mean, what are you doing right now?
I've exactly turned my pain into a purpose, using my lived experiences and coming out to help others.
You got it, Joe.
Yeah, it's fucking fantastic. It's fantastic that 7,000 people have done the course. I want to talk about the course itself. The idea behind the course, because you're a profit with purpose.
Yeah, profit with purpose organisation.
Profit with purpose. Yeah. Your business model, I tried Googling this. I'm assuming it's to sell your course, the Survive to Thrive Nation course, and the app to defence.
So as a profit for purpose organisation, the way that we operate is so veterans do not have to pay for our service. Mm-hmm. So I have self-funded this entire organisation. I did not put it onto the donors. Yep. So I'll tell you why. I had people that started a lot of charities, and they said, we're building these, there was an awareness organisation and we're building all these programs. Their programs collapsed and failed. Now, if my program collapses and fails, it's on me. Yep. But if a non-for-profit or a charities program fails, it's on you, the donor. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And they fail all the time. They break down all the time. Yep. So if I succeeded, it was on me. Mm-hmm. If I failed, it was on me. Mm-hmm. But yet, no veteran pays for our program. So I outsource all of this funding. I put a team together to outsource this funding from everything from charities. Big shout out to RSL Queensland. They put over 350 veterans on the program this year. And we've got partners around Australia. Mm-hmm. We also have events where veterans go out and run these events. But what they love about this, mate, is that when you come to us, right? We have the 8-module online program. We have the phone app. We have peer mentors and coaches that you get unlimited access to, and you're not waiting 3 months to see a psychologist. You're talking to someone who's been in that hole, knows their way out, understands the fundamental framework of the program, is talking to you, is mentoring you, is texting with you, is a mate to you throughout that process. And you have access to our online community indefinitely. So you're getting all of these accesses, even if you fall off the horse in a year. There is no other program I know in the online education space that allows you to re-engage on that program that you have access to for life. Nobody. So we fund everything. We fund our staff. We fund everything. And so when a partner or someone raises money for our program, they literally buy the product, right? They're literally purchasing the product. If you go to a non-for-profit organisation, right, I'll give you an example. One said, can I raise money for you? One raised $30,000 and they gave us $1,000 and tried to negotiate for one program. I was like, well, wait on, you guys raised 30 grand. Oh, well, that's going into our marketing and that went into our staff and that went into this. Yep. And it was like, what, huh? I take care of my own overheads. When you go to a charity, they have to take care of it with the donation money, right? And so it just made sense for me to turn around and go, well, I'm running a company. If I fail, it's on me. If we succeed, it's on me. But I don't give any glory to me, man. I give glory to God, my staff, the people that are involved in our partnerships, my mentors. You know, it takes a tribe. And we've done this now for over 10 years. Brother, we've gone through 3 major clinical evaluations, all self-funded. I've 3 major clinical evaluations, navigated the federal government. The things that I've had to go through, mate, I have watched company and non-for-profit organisations fall down and collapse around me. This here, I said this years ago, mate, if this was ever about money, I said I'm in the wrong industry. And to be honest with you, mate, Survive to Thrive Nation, I don't want to do it on this podcast because we're going to do a launch soon, but we've built a whole new department. We're a whole new beast now, brother. And that department is about to get launched very soon. But I can say this, you know, we work in corporate industries and there are many organisations out there that are using our framework to look after their veterans within their organisations, and they're very interested in something for them, you know, for all of their staff. Let's just put it that way. And we're working on some pretty cool stuff at the moment, mate.
That's amazing. Dane, I want to chat to you about the day-to-day life of veterans and how they can benefit themselves when it comes to all their emotions that they're going through. That lack of self-confidence, that's they don't know who they are anymore, the self-identity. Daily, veterans are struggling. What can they do on a day-to-day basis to better their lives? So like me personally, I start my day, I listen to affirmations throughout my sleep. I wake up, I do a meditation, I go outside, I go in the sun, I ground in the earth, and that's the beginning of my day. And most days I go for a walk with my dog.
So you've used a platform called routine.
Morning routine.
Right. When you create a routine and you're doing it daily, what you do daily, you become. So in terms of identity, you want to figure out who you are. What do you do every morning when you get up? Then you also want to listen to what the thoughts are. What is the enemy within telling you to stay in bed? Is it major depressive disorder where you have low serotonin, so you just feel depressed even though there's nothing to be depressed about? If so, are you still anchoring on to, why do I feel this way? It must be because of this. That might be unhealed. And so then you start telling yourself lies and stories that aren't there as well, and you create stories in your mind, and they do become traumas. So you've got to get very educated on your conditions and what you're going through. And like for me, right, I had major depressive disorder. Probably, I would guess I still have it, for about 15 years. But I don't allow myself to engage in any thoughts whatsoever until 10 o'clock. Like, I don't make any major decisions before 10 a.m. Okay. Right? I've just done that over 15 years ago. I realised that's just going to be the case for me. So routine for me is on that phone app. I wake up, I write down what I'm grateful for. So I know I'm a grateful person because I do it every day. I know that...
Gratefulness, by the way, is fucking huge for those listening. practice it with everything. I practice it now, even people cutting me off. Thank you. Like,
Thank you for the opportunity for me to control my emotions.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Thank you for the opportunity for me to forgive you right now.
Yeah, exactly.
This is a great practice. I appreciate you allowing me to forgive you. So gratefulness. Then I watch inspiration to fuel my motivation. Like in the program, you know that transcendence, evocation, and motivation comes out of inspiration. So your current state might be depressed. Well, it gets changed as soon as you watch an inspirational, motivational video on YouTube. Like all of a sudden you're like, wow, it's just changed my state. I want to get up now.
Yep.
And so you're listening to all of these motivational words and they're telling you, you know, don't be lazy. Get off your ass at the end of the day.
Make your bed.
Yeah. And so you get up and you go and have a cold shower. Obviously that's going to give you a jolt. And then we go out and we exercise. Bro, when I'm going into exercise, sometimes I'm doing videos on my Instagram story and I'm doing those kind of things. But I'm just going with what sort of comes with me. I do not analyze anything negative. If there's any fear response in the body, I'm just not analyzing it until after I exercise. I'm not going to be in a confident state until I get my endorphins going. But mate, I'm up early, so that's done. That's done and dusted by 7:30. Then when I get back, I do meditative prayer. So you know, I was into all the new age, you know, universe, all of that kind of stuff. Now I'm into the actual divine. I believe, you know, I know who God is through Christianity. And so I go into deep prayer and I meditate. Jesus used to meditate, by the way.
Were you a Christian before your journey?
No, bro. I had a spiritual intervention on my own. I didn't know any Christians in a hotel room in Bali.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds pretty amazing.
It was insane. And I was healed and my life transformed in a crazy way. I got 3 prophecies and they all have come to fruition over this year. There's one that hasn't completely come to fruition, but it's on its way. But when I did, I really dove in. I was like, the last was get to know me. I was like, mate, that came so strong to my, I just know exactly what's happened now. And so I went searching for answers and I went, wait on, this is real. There are things in the Bible that are not always supposed to be taken literally. There are certain things in times of Old Testament where there's questions around these were the inspired words of God or were they the literal word of God? But the bottom line is you get to the gospel and then when you start to look into Jesus Christ, was he here? Well, even the atheist theologians will tell you that he was. Even the all historians will literally tell you that Jesus was actually here. Then you've got to understand, was he the Son of God or not? And there's reasons for that. And I used to work in counterterrorism over in London, and we talked about eyewitness accounts. The resurrection had over 500 eyewitness accounts make submissions that Jesus walked down the street 3 days of Galilee or Nazareth. Yeah, 3 days after the crucifixion. And so, and then, you know, after that his disciples, there was disciples that were crucified too because they wouldn't denounce Jesus Christ as the Son of God. So when I understood the eyewitness accounts, how things went on 2,000 years ago, in terms of prophecies back then, man, if you did a prophecy that didn't come to fruition, you got killed. So people didn't muck around in terms of what was the inspired word of God. There was a format that had to happen through people with prophecies. It's miraculous. It's absolutely miraculous. So that's my walk with God. And so I know who I'm praying to now. And so I know that, you know, in terms of universe, God created the universe. He sits above and beyond time. So I know, so I get into meditative prayer and I finally feel like I know exactly what I'm praying to, who I'm praying to. I can listen to my spirit now and I'm like, whether it's me, I struggle sometimes whether it's me or it's him. There's times where I just know it's him. like I just go, wow, like that's really powerful. I know exactly what that is. And so it's a pretty powerful journey. But so I know what my identity is. A lot of my values are in my faith, for starters. I know that my values are in purpose, which means I wake up in the morning, I have a morning routine to start my day in positivity and strength. I know my values are what I give to others by giving to my community freely, by giving to my staff freely, by giving to my friends freely, by giving to my family freely without expectations of anything in return. I actually get all of the benefits, right? Because I'm not there with ego attached to it. I'm just feeling good. And so I know who I am as a person. And then I also know my gifts. So in the military, we define ourselves by what we do, not by who we are. We actually have who we are taken away. You are a soldier, and everything that's involved in those values, that gets taken away.
Job. Yeah.
Exactly. And I know what my gifts are. You know, I've got, a massive talent in motivational speaking, and I know in terms of my bravery and confidence where that can be used, and I know my gifts. I know where I'm at. I know exactly who I am. And so that's a very powerful concept. And so I'm going to tell people you have to learn who you are. You have to learn who you are.
How?
We have an identity in the Survive to Thrive Nation program. We have an identity checklist that you go through, right? And it's not just a checklist, you're writing things down. It goes into everything in terms of what are your values. We give you examples of what you have values of, because you probably, a lot of you have only valued what's within the military environment. And so what do you value underneath all of that? What do you actually value? And what inspires you? And so you have to write these things down. And now then you've got to journal after that. Because there's things that you're going to miss. So then you've got to go back to it and go, okay, well, I add that. There are things that you become self-aware of that you weren't aware of before. So that's a huge thing. Look, I would do an identity workshop. We've got one in the Survive to Thrive Nation program.
We'll add a link into the down below. I don't know.
Yeah, cool. That's awesome. And then you create a level of self-awareness. Now, I'm going to just let people know this too. Personal development isn't always a walk in the park. Sometimes it's shining a light into the darkness, and it's a very painful and triggering experience. So that's why I say to you, make sure that you use peer mentors, make sure you've got a community around you, and you want to have a breakthrough, not a breakdown. You know what I mean? So you don't want to just be triggered into some OCD thoughts and then all of a sudden you go, oh, how do I get myself out of this kind of thing? But I feel as though our program is, literally pushes you through everything. Yeah. It gives you answers all the way through. It's learning who you are is going to be a lifelong thing too. I mean, who I was 10 years ago and what I wrote down is not the person that I am today.
2 years ago.
Exactly. And I've transformed into someone better than I actually wrote down 10 years ago. Yep. So I'm a lot more, I didn't think I'd ever be this calm, mate. I'm actually in a calm place in my life. I never thought that I would ever be someone that didn't drink alcohol. I haven't drank in over 2 years.
That's amazing just in itself. I quit smoking this year.
Awesome.
I went from, like you ask anyone in my military career, didn't matter what unit I was at, I drank alcohol every weekend, a party. That was me, my abandonment issues, we were talking about it earlier. Throughout my life, I drank to people like me, because that's when you're drinking, people like you. And so I continually did that, because when I was drunk, other people were drunk and we got along. Yeah. And I just had a brain fart.
No. That's that. But even in terms of you saying you did that for people to like you, if I can give you a practice prior to us leaving, is that if you create codependence actually comes from our childhood, by the way, right? So people pleasers come from a childhood situation. There was probably the absence of the attention that you needed, or there was the absence of routine, or there was the absence of a level of consistent love that was needed.
All of it. Yeah.
All of that works out. Yep. And so because of those absent, you were seeking validation that just was not instilled within you, right? And so your thoughts are in the thoughts of my thoughts and what I think about you instead of what you think about you. And so you need to do a lot more work on your identity too, by the way, right? And it's always going to be there if there's things within you that you're not committed to changing right now. You might be interested in changing them. You might know that they're hurting you, but you haven't committed yourself. The freedom comes in obedience and discipline to the process. Once you get away from all the bullshit, the friends that don't serve you anymore, the environments that don't serve you, the shit that you're putting in your body that doesn't serve you anymore, and you start to work in a place of discipline and obedience, I promise you that's where the healing happens. Again, can't feel, you can't heal. People say when they're filling a void, right, you know the saying filling a void? You're filling dopamine. That is what the void is. Your dopamine center from having high stress as a kid, abandonment, shutting certain feelings down, shutting certain things down that was an emotional response that wasn't well received within your environment, impacted your dopamine center, right? And so as we get older, people with childhood trauma have higher addictions to nicotine, alcohol, drugs, sex, pornography, masturbation, you name it. So all we're doing is ruining our dopamine centers. Now, I'll give you an example. If you were to do NoFap, for example, and you quit pornography, this is what will happen to you. I promise you this. Within 30 days, you will have a vastly different outlook on how you look at women. Before, it was the person with fake this, fake that, blah, 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 to be able to give you a dopamine injection. The normal girl on the street that has a beautiful heart will start to become very, very attractive to you. If you're not watching pornography and filling this void with these very potent, high dopamine-centered stuff, you'll also go into a relationship with a better, loving, sexual relationship with somebody. You will start to, as you go further into the discipline situation with it, you will become delivered from all of that. You won't feel this need. So when you take that away, well, I need to fill it up with now bad food. Well, we're going to renew that now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, the renewance of needing love and all of this validation and all of these sexual desires, right, is you need to renew yourself with a lot of love, right? You need to love. I'm lucky because I don't think about how I love me anymore. I think about how God loves me, how I was given my own DNA. Like my DNA is my own barcode. He's got this incredible value for me. I just need to realize, you know, if it comes to something superficial, good looks or whatever, I'll put on some good clothes, man. Who cares? I'll go out and exercise. I'll go do something to make me feel good like a boss when I walk into a room, right? Like I'm renewing this self-esteem issue about how I look with actually something positive in terms of how I put that step. Alcohol. Bro, once you free yourself from alcohol, right, when you can't feel, you can't heal, mate, the spiritual demons that want to come up and attack you when you're getting away from, you know, something that is driving you into suicidal thoughts and high anxiety and panic, mate, getting off alcohol has been the most freeing thing ever. Mate, I can't tell you, and the longer you go into sobriety, the further you go into sobriety, the better the healing. And the things that come up that are deeper, bro, and you navigate yourself through it and you forgive it and you let go and you break the chains of that, it's like, mate, you become untouchable. You really do. It's a beautiful, beautiful feeling. Now, this walk for anyone who's in the early stages, one thing at a time, one step at a time, one mistake at a time, one step forward, 3 steps back at a time. You know, you're going to go through all of these processes to do it. You know, the biggest thing with me was I knew alcohol was a problem because I was escaping certain stressors throughout the week, and then I was drinking heavy on the weekends, and I knew that I was lying to myself and others about how much I was drinking. I was coming up with excuses, and I knew that it had ruined past relationships, and you know, I knew all of those things, but I was interested. I wasn't committed. I was interested in living this life. I wasn't committed. What would my life be without these friends? What would my life be without this clutch? What would my life be without this, escape. What would my life be like it? Well, I'll tell you what, it's beautiful. And everyone that has ever, experienced long sobriety will tell you the same. So, so...
It's inspirational. So I didn't quit alcohol, but I went from drinking every weekend to maybe drink once a month now, only with old army friends. It's pretty much the only time I drink, when I see them, who I haven't seen in months and months. It's something we always do. But I'm finding the lack of alcohol so fucking freeing. Yeah. I go to music festivals, the spiritual ones, not like falls or anything, like all these little earthy spiritual ones. I stay completely sober through them. I do all the workshops, it's been so fucking freeing. And I'm not waking up hungover or coming down from coke or MDMA or whatever.
Yeah,
and it is like, I just had a friend who cut me off 2 days ago, my best mate, who stayed with me for the past week. Didn't like me being so positive and trying to ask the best. I don't know, he's going through something. But he wanted to drink every day. It's just not me anymore. I can't do it. It's every time I've gone to kill myself is because of alcohol. 4 a.m. when I'm drinking by myself.
Of course. And can I tell you something, brother? You know that 1 in 4 weeks?
Yep.
Bro, you're setting yourself back. I'm not joking. Years.
Okay.
Like that once a month, right? There are things that are trying to work its way out of you right now.
Yeah.
They're trying to work their way out. And you're resetting that by putting an alcohol poison that numbs the spiritual and emotional response.
Yeah.
So you want to free those channels, brother.
I do want to. I do, like, alcohol to me, I'm not even interested anymore.
Yeah.
But whenever I catch up with old army friends that I haven't seen in years or months or whatever, we all drink. It's the drinking culture. So then I sit there and you go to have one. I'll be like, I'll have one with you. As soon as I have one, my old habits come back out, and I want to fucking party for a weekend, which is why I've got to cut it away, because it debilitates my motivation, my inspiration for the week. I'm depressed for the week. I want to fucking kill myself. I lose everything when I drink.
Right. So alcohol is a depressant, is it not? Mm-hmm. And is depression a low frequency? Mm-hmm. Right. And so if you're asleep and I come up to you with a flashlight and flash it in your eyes, you're going to say what?
Get the fuck away from me.
Right, get away from me.
Yep.
Right, and so now you're a light, shining light into the darkness. And some people are asleep. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right? They're at a low frequency. And it's making them look inside themselves into places that they're not ready for a light to be shined.
Yep.
Right? And so you're not supposed to be walking around in everyone's dark spot right now. Sometimes you're just that beacon where they have to come to you when they're ready, at the time that they're ready. When you go into those environments, I just try not to, because I got to dim my light, bro. I'm too confident. I'm walking around, I'm healed, I'm happy, I'm free, I'm all of these things. But I prepare myself for those, right? I prepare for myself for how I'm walking into those environments, right? Yep. I'm a natural evangelist too. Like, I can't help but to talk about God and Jesus. I love what Christianity has done for me. I can't believe the level of freedom. It was different than what I knew. It was different from what people told me and how condemning this religion was and all of these things that were out there. And it was like, wow, that's actually not it. We're being told 2 things. Love God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and love your neighbour as you love yourself. That means you've got to forgive. There are all of these sins that are out there, but when we walk in obedience, we feel a level of freedom. For those that don't, God already knows what you're going through. He knows your heart. So all of this kind of stuff to me was like, wow, this is different from what I've ever, learned, and how past religious leaders in some way has created, sort of their own indoctrination or their own condemningness of this. Yeah. But you know what, man? The majority, and I'm talking 99%, are the most loving, caring people and are there with you for open arms. It's very rare, actually. Yeah. It is actually very rare. But yeah, so so I'm saying this to you, man. Like, you're gonna build your own new tribes. You're also now entrepreneurial. So you have to literally become very good at being on your own. Like, I'm the chief. I can't always be sitting around with the Indians whether I like it or not, because I try to. But then I'm blurring the lines between my leadership and where they are. Mm-hmm. you know, you're an entrepreneur now, and there's a lot of time on your own because you need a lot of time to think, and you need a lot of time to get creative, and you need a lot of time to get away from people. And it's going to take you, you know, step by step. You're still learning things, still learning how to put lights on, and still learning how to set up podcasts. I mean, you know, you've done a fantastic job today. It's your first time doing this on your own, first time traveling as you come out here. So you're learning things, bro. You know, it's just a step-by-step process. But you're going to be sitting in front of new mentors, and you're going to, you know, do all of those things. Brother, my thing for you to take away from today is, number one, is let's get to a state of freedom. And that is going to be breaking the chains through forgiveness of events, people. And the second I would work on is a level of obedience to the process. Man, if you're already going a month without drinking, let's get it to 90 days. And when you get to 90 days, if you feel like doing 100, bro, that's up to you. But you can already do 30 days. We know that. So let's go for 90. And then tell me how you feel at 90 days.
That's the thing. I'm going to go the next 90 days. What is it? October, November, December, January. I'll be on my 12-month trip around Australia doing the podcast from the road. It'd be perfect.
Amazing. All right, mate. I'm probably over time.
Yeah,
just
that's
hit
right.
12:40.
No, thanks for jumping in, taking the time.
No worries,
I know we've gone over time. I've been looking forward to this chat, and I can't wait. Awesome news about your new program launching. Survive to Thrive is fucking amazing. If you haven't done the course, go do it. It's 8 hours of your life, but you will learn so much, way more than you learned just here, and I hope you did learn something. But yeah, thank you, Dane.
Bro, it's been amazing talking to you. I'm really proud of you. I'm actually going to be quite excited to watch your journey, you know.
Thank you.
You know, for us, we call it the fundamentals. We've always said that it's the GPS to success, but, you know, you're the one that's going to be marching the hills from here. So, you know, you've been given the GPS, and now you're on your way, and, mate, you're going to learn so much on this journey. And, brother, I'm just really proud of you. And, you know,
thank you.
Keep killing it.
Yeah,
well done, brother.
All right,
Cheers.
you have a good one. Thank
Cheers,
you.
mate. See you, man.
See ya.
Hang in there, buddy. We've got you. You're not alone.